Kumlenin, a blot Gemara. This daf is the blot from Tisha B'Av. So the Gemara, the Mishnah said, a man has no chazak if he says, I was 3 years here on my wife's property that she brought into marriage, a nichse maloi, a plucked property, and the husband, the arrangement usually is the property belongs to the wife, that's nichse maloi, and the husband works and toils away, and he's entitled to all the paytas. And the reason why he's entitled to paytas is because since he has, it's tachat the Gemara Ksubas there works out all these arrangements, because he has to redeem her, she's taken captive, so reward him that he gets to keep all the fruits. So he gets to keep some of the fruits. So what happens if for 3 years he kept all the fruits and he says, look, I bought it for my wife and I have chazaka and she never protested. So we say it's not really a chazaka because why would she protest? They have a good relationship and she doesn't mind if he takes all the fruits. Says the Gemara, Pshita, isn't that obvious? Even the East, pay the reason why he's in the field is because he's allowed to keep the yield, and therefore the fact that he kept the yield proves nothing. Why should she protest? And who doesn't have any rights in the property itself? All we gave was rights to the harvest. So therefore, she doesn't have to protest because everyone knows that a husband is entitled to work on the nifse maloi. Says the Gemara. The Kosla, he wrote to her, Din udvarim ein li ben chasayich. He says, you know what? I don't want anything to do with your nichse maloi. I don't want anything. And yet he was there for 3 years. So we'd say, look, he said, I don't want anything, and he was there for 3 years. Why didn't she protest? He clearly said, I don't want anything. So therefore, it proves that he has a chazaka. That's what we would have thought. And Mishnah says, since the end of the day, they're still husband and wife and have a good relationship. So she probably didn't care. She didn't care, even though he said, I don't want to have this kind of arrangement. And she says, and she led, and he was there. She allowed him to. She was meichel. Says the Gemara. Let me ask a question. If he wrote it, we already had this last week. If he wrote these words to her, Mahava, what is it? But Tanya, we learned these words, is meaningless words. It's empty words. Doesn't in any change the fact that the fruits are his, because you can't get out of ownership just by saying, I'm walking away. But Tanya learned, if someone says, friend, I have nothing to do with this field. Mainly ASIC, I don't have anything, I don't have any involvement. The Yadim is selected, these different phrases. Or my hands are a movement, lamakum, the meaningless, empty phrases. So what did he say to her that he walked away? So the Gemara says, Amri Lodwe Rabbiana said, Masnisin, our Mishnah is talking about when he said it in a way that it's effective. When is it effective? In other words, if he would have said, I'm giving it to you, in the words of a matana, I'm gifting it to you, okay, that's how you give a matana. But here he didn't say, I'm gifting to anybody. He said, I'm walking away. That's not enough to absolve or to release you from that particular, whatever those rights you had. You don't just walk away. You have to give it away. And he didn't give it away. In all three uses of all the phrases, he just walked away. Says the Gemara, so we'll say, Am lo mayana maslisin. Our Mishnah talking about the case of law he wrote her. So if he would have gifted her, no problem. We're saying that he walked away, which is a weak lashon, and we're going to bring 3 different dinim here that we're going to bunch together. And the idea what we're saying here now is that generally, if you use strong words, like I'm giving it away, then in all cases it works. But if you're using very weak language, like I'm walking away, it will only work in very specific cases. Certain conditions. Number one is, it isn't yours. It's about to become yours. So if you're saying I'm walking away, you can actually say I'm walking away because I don't want it. It's as if you're saying I don't want it. Don't give it to me in the first place. But once I have it, I can't just walk away. I have to give it up. And even then, it's only when it's a benefit to me. If the reason why it's becoming mine is because it's a benefit to me, and third, it's a takanas chachamim. So it has to be like 3 conditions. If it's mahat Torah, even if it's a benefit to me, I can't just walk away. The Torah is a right that you can't just walk away from. You have to give it away. But if it's midrabanan, and it's something I don't have yet, it's coming my way, and it's for my benefit, those 3 fact variables, then I can use even weak language on walking away. Plus, it's a davar shalai ba'olam. It's a davar shalai ba'olam. It hasn't happened yet. And generally speaking, davar shalai ba'olam is a very weak, you can't really make transactions. So therefore, in all these cases, you can say it only if we have these 3 factors. Now, to walk away, davar shalai ba'olam, we know we could. If you make it tonight, I'm going to do this and this on the condition I don't want this to happen to me. You can do that. But that's proper wording. That's a full Tanai, which we learned from the Torah. You can make a Tanai and all the laws that come with Tanai. Over here, you're just saying a loose phrase. I don't want it. Yodim Mishalek, my hand is moved away. So then you have to have all these three variables, and you want to bunch them together. So first we say Rav Kahana. This you have to first include Rav Kahana. Rav Kahana said, if you don't have yet any rights to it, it's about to come into your rishus. Is Adam Master Yeshana. You can make it tonight that you don't want it. You can make it tonight. I don't want it. If it didn't happen yet, I can make it tonight that I don't want it. The Torah says you can have a Yerusha. You can't just walk away and say, I don't want it. So you have to add Rava. The Amar Rava it has to be a Takan Chamin, not from the Torah. And it has to be, as Rav Kahuna says, where it's a benefit. The Rabbanon. And you don't have it yet, you can always then walk away. Even that she brought into the marriage. Every day it's like something new that didn't happen yet. So therefore it didn't, and that's why, because it didn't happen yet as well, I can walk away from it. And he said, I know the rabbis want to help me out, but I'm not interested. In such a case, listen to him. My going zeis. What do you mean, like this case? Which case are we referring to? So we had in Ksubas. Like Rabbi Huna says in the name of Rav, the Rav Huna says in the name of Rav, the law is that you have to provide that you have to provide for a woman, and everything that she earns goes to the husband, because usually the woman did not earn enough to provide for herself, so the husband has to take care of the wife. But there shouldn't be any enmity between the two. We say every earning that she makes, she gives to the husband. So what happens? She says she earns more than the husband. What happens? She says, you know what? I don't need any favors. You keep the money that you want to provide for me. I'm going to keep my own earnings. She has every right to say that. A woman has a right to say to husband, don't feed me, and any work I make does not belong to you. We had a machlekes in Ksuvas. What about Hadaf? If she earns a lot more than she needs, what happens then? But anyway, I'm not working for you. So that's what we're saying here. So therefore, the husband has a right to walk away. And the chiddush in the Mishnah is that even though the husband has a right to walk away, and we know that the husband walked away, but if he's 3 years in the properties of his wife and eating all the fruit, doesn't prove that it's his, and he claims I bought it, there's no chazak here, because the wife, even in these circumstances, is meichel her husband. Let him have the fruit. I don't need it. So that's no proof. And that's what the Mishnah is saying. Now the Gemara makes an inference in the Mishnah. Gemara says, okay, we say that there's no chazaka, but harai, yes. What happens? More than a chazaka, he actually has a document. He brings us a star into court and says, here, my wife sold me this property, nixon maloig. I didn't want the fruit, but here's my star. So l'chaydu would seem from the Mishnah, if you're lying on chazaka because she didn't protest, proves nothing. But if he had a document, an actual document that he bought it, it would be good. Says the Gemara, but why? We have a concept, as we'll soon see, that even if the wife agrees and she consents and she signs a document, she can later argue, I only did it to please my husband. We're married. And, he got me to sign all these mortgage documents in the bank. I mean, we have all these problems today, and we had it years ago, and it's interesting how the courts ruled each case differently. But if the wife says, I signed because my husband asked me, I didn't read the fine print, I trusted him, we have a good marriage, I don't want to upset the marriage. So, what happens in that case? In halacha, she says, I did it, nachas ruach. I wanted to give my husband sisi l'bayla. I want my husband to be happy. I didn't want to start any fights. So he asked me to sign. I signed. So therefore she can walk away. But yet our Mishnah seems to be saying that chazaka is not valid. But if he had a document from her, it would be valid. Says the Gemara, haraya, yes. Tema, I understand why. Nachas ruach hasisa. Why can't she say that I signed the document? Even the document should be invalid. She can say, I only signed it because my husband asked me to buy the property. So I said, okay, I'll sell you the property. But I didn't mean it. And in fact, how do we know such a concept, such a principle is correct? Me like Tanan. We actually learned in a Mishnah, and the Mishnah says, all this in Ksubas. Lokach mina ish, let's say the husband turned around, every husband, when a man marries a woman, all the properties that he has are meshubah. There's a lien on them for the Ksubah. He has to pay the Ksubah. And therefore, if he dies or he divorced, she can collect the Ksubah from any property that she wants. There's a lien on all of his properties. Now, if he sells any of the properties, and he has no properties to pay her when she's entitled to Ksula, she has the right to go to any of the purchasers and take the property away. If there's nothing left, nothing left in the husband's estate, she can go to any of the purchasers and take the property away and say there's a lien on it from my Ksula. So what happened is somebody bought a property from the husband, any property, not hers, but any property. And then this man wanted to make sure, he wanted to ensure that he doesn't lose the property if the husband dies. Lakach manish, he bought it from the husband. Then the chazav lakach manish, a nominal amount. The property was $1,000. He gave a few dollars and says, and she agreed to this sale. What happens then if, let's say, he dies, the husband dies, or divorces her, and the husband has no assets? She has every right to go to this purchase and collect. Why? Because she says, even though I signed a document, what my husband sold a property, and I signed along with it, doesn't mean I agreed with it. I had no choice. I just did it to make my husband happy. So therefore, because I didn't mean it, I never agreed to the sale, and there's a lien. I'm not forfeiting my lien on the property. I'm collecting. If the husband buys a nixim, why can't you say I never agreed to the sale? I just did it to make him happy. Says the Gemara, Allah, didn't we learn? I think my answer as follows. This din in that mission is talking about in one of these following three possibilities. And one of these three fields where she's co-signed. For example, Achas, either she costs in the ksuba, he documented a particular field and he said, this is the field that you have a lien on. She has a lien on everything, but that is really the primary field that she relies on, that she'll collect one day if things don't work out or the husband predeceases her. So, and if the husband then sells that property and she co-signs, she can say, I just did it to help him out, but I really want that for my ksuba. I always want that for my ksuba. Case number two, the way Rashbam learns, other Shem differently, that he said he didn't write it in the contract. He just showed her a field verbally and said, in the ksuba it says that I'm going to give you a property. That's it. That's the property. So again, she relied on that property more than any other property. And the third one is there's another. We talked the whole time about nichse meloig. Nichse meloig is a pluck property. She brings the property into the marriage. The husband works on it, and he is entitled to dividends. And when they divorce, she takes the property back. There's a thing called nichse, whatever it's worth. She takes the property. Nichse term Basel is where you fix an amount. You say, well, this property is worth $100. You put it into the marriage, and then when the marriage falls apart, she takes $100 back, and we fix the price for that particular property. So all of those, that husband turned around and sold the nifsei tzayim Basel. If he turned around and he sold it, then and she co-signs again. I just did it to please my husband. So. Because we say over there that if the property is worth more in value when I come take it back, the husband gets the excess. If the property is worth less than the fixed amount we put in the ksuba, then the husband has to supplement and give me the full value of the property. But he then turned around and sold it. So and she co-signed. And when do we? So he said that it applies to these three cases that she can say, "I just co-signed to make my husband happy." And when can she say that? What are you trying to exclude? Are you trying to tell me that if he sells any other property and she co-signs, she cannot say, I just did it with my husband? On the contrary, on the contrary, she says any other field, if I would not have co-signed, my husband would say, hey, it's my field and I need to sell it. Why don't you co-sign it? Oh, you're worried already now that I'm going to divorce you. That marriage is not going to work out, and therefore you don't want to sign. You don't want to lose your ksuba. You're already thinking about divorce. What kind of marriage is this? And I'll really get him angry. The properties that he promised me for my ksuba, and if I say I don't want to sell, it's understandable because this is directly the property that we discussed and written in the court in the ksuba, or put a lien on it more than any other field. And if I'm hesitant in selling it, my husband can understand. And yet we say, if she co-signed, I had no choice. Surely all the other properties that you're not really thinking about for the ksuba, and yet you don't want to sign because you're worried about the ksuba, what does that do to the marriage? Well, upset the marriage. Of course you can argue, I just did it to please my husband. Surely it'll be enmity if she refuses to sign. He'll turn around to her and say, you're already thinking about my death, my premature death, or you're already thinking now about a divorce? So what's he trying to exclude? He's excluding nichse meloig. The only time the wife has no right to say, I did to my husband, is the property that she brought in, and it's completely hers. Whatever value goes up or down is hers. Nichse meloig. The husband has no rights to that field. All he has is the paytus. If the husband sells it, he's only selling in case he ends up with the field, like she died before him, then his sale is a valid sale retrospectively. So that nichse meloig, since it's hers completely. If she were to turn around and say, "Look, I'm not interested in selling the property; it's mine." The husband can't have any qualms, and she can't say, "Oh, I did it to please my husband." You shouldn't have done it. Why? Why are you selling? It's your property, not his property. Why are you selling it? You must have done it because you agreed, you wanted to. You can't go along and say, "I did it to please the husband." So that's the answer. You asked the question about pleasing the husband. So the Gemara, Ha'amar Ameimar, to ask a question, didn't Ameimar say? Ish v'isha shemachre benichse meloik. Ameimar said that if a husband and wife together signed a document together to sell one of her property, nichse meloik, loy asav lekum, it's not a sale. So we see clearly from here that she can argue, "I did it to please my husband," even by nichse meloik, not like what you just said. Says the Gemara, ki itmo da Ameimar. Ameimar's case is limited. In what case? Heicha de zaben ihu. What happened? The husband sold the property, and then the husband died. If the husband sold the property and the husband died, then who ends up with the property? The wife ends up with the property. Then she come along and say, "Look, I didn't really want to sign, and therefore she can come and take the field back. I did it to please my husband. So even though it's a she can take the field back." Or inami, Zovni, if she sold it, the mason, she died, so now the field goes over to the property. Also, he could come and take it away. Now, why can the husband take it away? She sold it while she was alive. This is a special takana which we learned about as well, called takanas usha. One of the takanas they made in usha when the Sanhedrin traveled 10 Golia, 10 exiles. One of them was usha, actually a couple of times. But the kanta de rabban ukrabiesi bechanina. Rabbi Chanina said, in order to cement that relationship with husband and wife and to make him really feel good that they're really sharing everything of a common bank account and all that, we said, you know what? That the husband is considered a purchaser. They got married as if he's the first purchaser of all the properties, and any property she sells during the marriage is as if post the first buyer. So the husband is the first buyer. So if he dies first, then the property was sold to that person, or the husband outlives the wife, then the husband was the first buyer. He says to the second buyer, "You're a second buyer. It's mine." The Amar Rabbi Chanina, B'ushi is a special takana. Ha'isha shemachra benichse meloik. If a woman sold nichse meloik v'meisa and she died, habal meitzi miyad l'kuch. The husband can take it out of the hand of the kuchas. But heicha de zevinu tavayu. La'alma, they both together agreed, not one of them sold it, they both together agreed to sell a property. She can't say, "I did it to please my husband." Nobody asked you to agree to sell the nichse meloik if she both signed it together. Or inami zovni iyala didei, or she turned around and sold it to him. Then zvina, then the sale is a valid sale. We can't say to please my husband. And that's what the Mishnah means. That only if he chazaka, the husband said, "I have a chazaka of 3 years, that took all the crop," means nothing, even though he said, "I'm not interested in the field." But if the husband actually bought the field, she sold it to the husband directly, then we say that, and he has a star, we'll believe the husband. And she can't say, "I did it to please my husband," because she sold it to the husband. So we say that what? That she actually meant it. We think tomorrow.